Quadruped spinal flexion and extension. So first of all, you'll do your flexion. If you want to do some cat and cows to warm up this movement first, then you could do that. But we're going to start with the flexion. So you're going to really focus on articulating each part of your spine, one vertebrae at a time as you round, tucking your pelvis under and separating your shoulder blades at the top. And then come into a neutral spine as you've completed. It does take quite some time as you've got to really focus on this one. As you go through your extension, so you'll do some of flexion, some of extension. As you go through the extension, it's the same. So you'll start to articulate, starting from the pelvis as always. Start articulating from the sacrum through to the lower part of the back, middle part of the back, upper part of the back, head and the neck and head are last. And then you just come to a neutral spine. I'm going to show you what you're not going to do. So from a quadruped position, you're not just going to go into like a cat and cow kind of shape. So you're not just going to go as if you were doing a cat and cow. It's going to be focused on one vertebrae at a time. So I'll try and kind of point this out here. So it's as if you're going to have somebody walking their hands or walking their fingers up your back. You could also use somebody to help you. So you could also use somebody to walk their fingers up the back. So you're consciously thinking of moving that part of your spine when their hands are moving up your back. It is very hard to control and it takes some time, depending on like mobility issues and things like that. So just really try your best to focus on this articulation one at a time as much as you can. Quadruped hip flexion. So as you can see, you're going to have your palms in line with your shoulders and your knees in line with your hips. As you ground through your palms, you'll lift up one leg and you'll draw the knee up towards your elbow or in between your elbows. So as you do that, you're going to maintain a level line with your spine, continue with engagement with the core, but we want to aim to have no movement at the rest of the body and we're just focusing here. Then what we'll do, we'll spin over, move around to the other side. You might feel some differences as you do the other side, so just note these down in your mind, or if you need to note them down, and then I'll be able to see differences. So this is what you won't do, so I'm going to show this now. So as you are in this position, what you won't do is tuck the knee in and squeeze as far as you can. So what this will do is you'll end up rounding your back, so it'll give a false recording. So we just want to maintain everything as I've just shown previously. Quadruped hip extension. So from an all fours position, you're going to lift your leg up, flex into your foot, bend into your knee, trying to lift the leg as high as you can without making any changes in the back. So I'm going to show you from the other side, and again you will do this from both sides. You'll probably notice a difference between each side or subtly. The aim is to keep a really straight back here, and we don't want to be extending in any way. I'm going to show you what you shouldn't be doing. So this is what it'll look like. You might find that you do this action because it's just a subtle difference, even for me. But you don't want to be arching your back in the slightest. So if you kind of looked really closely here, you can see that as I lift my leg, I'm arching my back. And we don't want that, it'll skew the results. Quadruped hip abduction. So from an all fours position, we'll keep the back nice and flat, and you'll take your leg out to the side, just as far as your range will take it, and come back into the midline. So you can kind of see from the front. I do another side as well, just so you can see it more from a different angle. And this is what I would need from you also. So from the front and from the side. So you can see from the side that my hips are staying level. There is no kind of movement there. And then obviously from the other side. And you'll find that one side feels quite a bit different to the other, or maybe it's just a subtle amount. And showing you from a perspective of what you shouldn't do. So you can kind of see it from the front, but you can see it from a difference between the first one and this one. So as you can see from here, I'm lifting up too high and I'm sacrificing, and I am actually turning inwards a little bit. From the side you can see a bit better, so the legs coming up too high, and there's a change into the back and the hips. Supine hip external rotation. So from that same position as internal, we're just doing the opposite. So the hip is turning outwards, so it looks like the bottom part of the leg is moving inwards as your hip is moving outwards. My range looked pretty big here, and I wasn't sure if it was kind of skewing the results. As I looked back, I was thinking, I'll do this again. So I was controlled, as you can see, but I wanted to do it again just to show. So as you can see here, I'm doing it again, just at a smaller range, just to make sure that the knee's staying within the midline. It's not coming out, so it won't be skewing the results, so that I can see proper results for each of my legs. And obviously then I'll show both sides. One side does feel a little bit easier than the other. And then I do another little demo coming up, just showing you what not to do. And it's kind of easy in a way to kind of let this happen. Obviously you would be maintaining control. This doesn't look controlled at all. But we don't want to be letting the knee coming out too far and the foot just kind of, just coming in. So you don't want to be achieving the maximum range when you're sacrificing your form. So you want to be maintaining our form within our range. Supine hip internal rotation. So we're going to have the knee in line with the hip, and that's always going to remain that way. So as you move your hip internally, obviously it'll look like the bottom part of the leg is moving out as you move your hip inwards. You'd want to make sure that the knee stays in the midline all of the time. So you'll do both sides and you will get a judgment of how it feels from each side. So again, note that. And I'm going to show you how you shouldn't do it and just be observant of this. So as you come back into the movement, you don't want to be coming too far out, and kind of the recording being like not a true representation. So it'll be kind of, you don't want to have lack of control, and you don't want to just be taking the knee in as far as you can, going past the midline. It might not look like much of a difference here, and if needed, you could use some support to stop you from doing that. Scapula CARS. So if you can use like a broomstick or like a really, really light bar or PVC pipe for this, taking your arms in line with your shoulders, and you're going to literally draw a big circle with your scapula, but it's going to be very, very controlled. So you will lift up into elevation, go forwards to protraction, drop down to depression, pull back into retraction, and then repeat. Do that for one direction and do it for the other direction also. And I would like to see this from the side and from the back. It would be better if I could actually see your scapula. So obviously I'm wearing a full top here, but if you've got like a different sort of vest top so that I could see it, or for guys, if you don't want to have a top on so I can have a look, then I can see how everything moves if you're comfortable to do so. Do 3 reps of both directions at both of these angles. Seated shoulder flexion. So you can either use a chair or a bench where you're able to have your feet grounded on the floor. Taking your outside hand over your ribs just to avoid any compensating. The other arm, the thumbs will be facing forwards as you raise your arm up as far as you can, in line with the ear, without any compensating at the ribs. You want to be able to keep that arm straight as we do that. So as you can see here, outside hands going on the ribs, thumbs facing forwards, raising the arm up, and then lowering it down. If you take a pause at your top at the maximum range, and then slowly lowering down, just so I can see how far you lift up on each side. You're going to avoid doing this. So as you lift your arm up and flare in your ribs, this is why your hand is there, because you'll realise when you're doing it to stop you from doing it. But we don't even want the slightest compensation because it will skew your results. Everything will compact like I'm showing here, drawn in the core as you're raising up your arm and lowering it. So you just go up to where you can without compensating.